Listen to me very carefully. When we pick up the pen and when we start jotting down our ideas, what happens? Do you realize before you wrote, you were not aware about these things? You are listening to me. Now, as you wrote, you recalled. Writing stirs your memory. And as writing stirs your memory, you better remember the things you write. If you are preparing for exam, read 10 minutes, write 30 minutes. The formula is read 10 minutes, think 20 minutes, write 30 minutes. This is the proportion. 1 reading, 2 thinking, 3 time writing. Then you prepare. Okay, move ahead. Second section. Now if you see in the second section, let me comment now. It was the early 1970s in Prime Minister Pierre Elliott Trudeau's Canada. My father was working at a think tank and my family lived in a sleepy hamlet in Ottawa where everyone was friends, or so it seemed. Sentence 1. Now let's comment on the sentence. Sentence 1. All right, sentence 1. First thing you will remember, you will recall is the sentence begins in past simple tense. It was. In section 1, she did not use past simple. She used present simple. If you read the whole essay, you will see that there is a back and forth switching in this essay between present tense and past tense. This is called flashback technique in writing. Flashback, flashback technique. In cinemas, have you seen in cinemas as you watch your hero or heroine sometimes all of a sudden remembers her childhood and the scene changes. The hero who was 30 years old, he becomes 10 years old all of a sudden. Then again comes back. This is called flashback technique. In memoir writing, in autobiographical writing, in narrative writing, flashback is a very powerful technique. What happens in flashback? In flashback technique, the writer moves between past and present. Past and present. The writer might begin from the present, tell something about now, and then switch back to past. Why? Because that now is somehow connected with them. That now is connected with them. Now I remember my wife while talking to you. Now what do I remember? Now I remember 2046, Asar 9, when I saw my wife for the first time 3 days before our marriage. Now then. Flashback. Now then. If I was writing a memory about my marriage, I'll first begin telling my wife now, how is she? Then I might switch back to 3 days before. How she was when we saw last month, my daughter got our first photograph together. That was shot by one of our relatives second day in a green field. We two are standing. I look like 18, 19-year-old boy. She is barely 17. And my daughter printed that photograph, framed it without letting me know, and now she has put near my bed on the bedroom. Every time I go, I see that photograph and I remember, oh, this was the first photo we took together. Flashback. Flashback. Now and then. This is a very good technique in writing, particularly when you write memoir. Read ahead. So she tells more details now. She says that it was early 70s. Now this is time, right? This is time, right? 70s time. There's a word, a new word I'm telling you now. Listen carefully, note down and understand. There's a word called Kairos. 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 What is Kairos? Kairos is the time in a story. Kairos is a time in a story. So Kairos means situation. Kairos means time. What kind of time? Social time, political time, cultural time. Have you heard the word milieu? M-I-L-I-E-U? I'm not sure. Has anybody heard the word milieu? No? You should know this word. Very, very nice word. Milieu, M-I-L-I-E-U. I'm not sure about the spelling. Milieu is your surrounding, your setting, the kind of time we are living in. Right? So my time was quite different from your time. Right? When I went to school, my parents gave me 10 paisa for breakfast. 10 paisa. Now you come with 500 rupees, I know, or more than that or less than that. Maybe 100 you spend at least, 100 rupees or 70, 80 rupees at least. I spent 10 paisa times, right? Now, why I am talking about Kairos? Because in this section, she talks about the 1970s Canada. In the next section, she talks about 1980s America. In the next section, she talks about 1990s Nepal and Canada. In the 10 pages, Manjushree Thapa covers from 1970s to 1990s. She covers 30 years. So these 10 pages talk about the 30 years in her life. I'm not aware when Manjushree was born. I guess she was born in 1968. I was born in 1969. So Manjushree is 1 year older than me. Maybe somewhere she mentions, I forgot. Right? And you remember, 1969 is a very historical time around the world, because in 1969 there were student uprisings around the world. So 69 is very important year. Also because I was born, for me it's more important, right? My birth year. Move ahead. Leave it and move ahead. Sorry to talk about personal things. Okay. So I said it is in past tense, flashback. Then I said 1970s, Kairos. And I defined Kairos as situation, social milieu, social surrounding, social environment, social atmosphere, cultural atmosphere, economic atmosphere, etc. Read ahead. So she talks about her father now, right? Now if you Google, you can cross-check and verify this fact. Now, earlier I said the narrator is a rhetor, right? There are two types of rhetors. Under that rhetor, note down A and B. One is real rhetor, another is implied rhetor. Real rhetor and implied rhetor. Look at me. When you feel that the speaker in the story is 100% the writer, this is a real rhetor. This is a real rhetor. When the narrator inside the story, you are pretty sure is 100% the woman who wrote this story, then this is a real rhetor. Now ask a question, Divakar sir, how do we know if she is a real rhetor? One idea is, if you see that some factual information in the story matches with writer's personal life, then the rhetor is a real rhetor. For example, she says, my father. And if you Google and ask Google, please tell me who was the father of the writer Manjushree Thapa. Instantly Google will tell you Manjushree Thapa's father was Dr. Bhes Bahadur Thapa. And if you don't know, Dr. Bhes Bahadur Thapa comes from Tanahu. He was sent to get education in America, and King Birendra selected him as think tank in Nepal, and then he appointed him as an ambassador to America. And I guess, I don't know if Bes Bahadur Thapa is living or dead, I'm not sure, I shouldn't say it like this. Bes Bahadur Thapa had a son. His son was the first tunnel engineer of Nepal. He died in a car accident, his only son. And I think Bes Bahadur Thapa is living still. A year ago, Bes Bahadur Thapa wrote a wonderful book. The name of the book was Rashtra Dekhi Pararashtra Samma, I think. It was a book on diplomacy. You can choose to buy and read a book. Wonderful book. Rashtra Dekhi Pararashtra. It's about international relations. Now, because I can cross-check that her father was Dr. Thapa, now I know that this writer is a real writer. The narrator and writer are same. Now we know the narrator of this story and the writer of this story are same. So he was working as a think tank. Now my family lived in a sleepy hamlet in Ottawa, location, place, where everyone was friends, or so it seemed. See this phrase, or so it seemed. I was 3 years old. Mark it, note it down, because her narration begins from 3 years age. I was born in 1969, and in 1972 there was a space shuttle crash. I was just 3. I pretty well remember people talking about the shuttle crash. Its name was Skylab. There were 6 or 7 scientists going to space for research. The shuttle crashed and they all died. Do you see? I remember something that happened when I was barely 3. What is your earliest memory in life? I don't ask you, write down or remember. How early things you remember, right? So I remember something that happened in 1972. How old I was? 3. And when I was barely 4.5, I guess, I was already in love with a girl of my age. This may be shocking to you. Shocking to you, right? Let me explain further. One girl of my age from neighboring family used to walk in our compound. We would play together because I had no sister. You misread me when I said I was in love. I had no sister. I had no female figure except my mother. And my mom would live in Nepal, I would live in India with my father. So in my family, I almost never saw a female figure. I saw only male. And she was the only female figure who crept inside my compound. So we would play. I remember what happened in my life when I was 4. Right? Now I inspire you this evening, buy a diary and write such memories from your life. A day will come when you will cherish your memories. You will cherish. Okay, move ahead. I was 3 years old. For a year I stayed home as my older brother and sister trotted off to school every morning with the neighboring girl Dara. Under the heading character, note down. We first saw the receptionist, then we saw the waiter, now we meet Dara. Note down, older brother. Note down, older brother and the sister, yes. She of the oblong face, under the Dara, note down this, oblong face, blue eyes, straight blonde hair. Look at me. In this essay you will find many instances of such detailed description of the appearance. Ask a question. Why does Manjushree Thapa describe faces so detailedly? One possibility is that this essay is about identity. And identity is primarily biological. I am a male. I am 56 aged. I am Nepali. I am Brahmin, now cultural. So because one theme of this essay is identity and the crisis of identity. What is crisis of identity? When you are not sure who you are. So she portrays all characters in detail. Dara, I guess she is not Canadian. She may be Indian, Punjabi. Or I don't know. Let's read. And a desire to make us children feel at home. Dara and the other kids knew me by my family nickname, Sanu. Note down. The writer's name was Sanu. It's our cultural habit. We call people as Sanu. Right? Nani. Little one, Sanu. I'll stop here. I have just begun section 2, and so far I talked about flashback technique, I talked about rhetor, I talked about new word I introduced is kairos. I defined kairos, and then I talked about other characters. Okay, pick up your pen and continue the previous paragraph you wrote earlier and add the details I explained in this paragraph. Please, in 5-minute time, add more details to the paragraph summarizing what I said in section 2. Summarize what I explained in section 2.